All
Cool.
right.
Here we are.
Looks like we're ready to go here. So we're just gonna talk a little bit about what happened with the GORUCK Games and kind of how the event was and
A sham. It was all a sham.
that is. I've seen nothing but good feedback about the whole event.
It was really good. Yeah, I've only seen good feedback as well.
So let's start at the very beginning and talk about what was asked on the application because I'm kind of curious because you had to apply and get selected for this. And
Oh, there wasn't even like an actual application sheet to fill out. It was so they invited some people who had done like GORUCK selection or maybe some big name people in rucking and OCR or something. So they invited a few people. I don't know how many or who, and then they opened applications to everyone else. So all you had to do was send in an email with your like what you considered your qualifying credentials, why you thought you should be in the games competing. So that's all I did.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. So they were.
And then I was gone for a few weeks, and when I got back, it said you had sent me the image with my name on the roster.
Yeah, and there were 50 men and 50 women, I think.
It was supposed to be. I think a few didn't show up, and then throughout the 2 days, at least one, but maybe two ended up having to drop for injuries. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly how many there were at the end. I still haven't seen any score stats from it, which I guess they'll put them out. I don't know.
Okay. And so what type of training did you do? Because I know they didn't specifically say what event was. We knew Savage was going to have their, pretty dense urban OCR course. And of course, GORUCK is going to have a lot of rucking. That kind of makes sense. So
Yep.
what type of training did you do?
All that was told was there would be an obstacle course. I didn't think it was going to be as short as it was or as dense as it was. I thought it was going to be a longer course than it was. And then, of course, there would be a ruck. And they said some type of fitness competition with Rogue. So, like, the idea I had in my head going in was that it was going to be 3 events only. And then the top 8, because they did say the top 8 would move on for some other events. But in my mind, it was just 3 events. So I was expecting a ruck and obstacle course race and a singular fitness event. But we ended up with like 4 or 5 something individual fitness events in between the ruck and the obstacle course. So it played out a lot differently. Training, I ran as much as I could for the rucking because I don't like rucking for rucking. And I only rucked when I had to for work, and which has been a lot, actually, shockingly. It's been like 8 to 10 miles a week, which I consider a lot when I don't want to do it at all anyway. And strength training, one thing that almost went well was I was doing a lot of overhead work for strength training, like barbell presses overhead and kettlebell presses overhead, because there ended up being that overhead sandbag hold, but I still didn't hold it very long. But I might have held it less long if I hadn't done that. And weight vest, there was weighted pull-ups, and I normally do a lot of weighted pull-ups, but not as much lately because of work requiring me to do their PT and having to sort between that and my normal stuff. So training up to it wasn't ideal. And then like the week I was gone 3 weeks, came back a week, and then went to the GORUCK Games. And the 3 weeks I was gone was eating not good food because that's all they had there, and a lot of running and some strength training. The training wasn't that bad. Sleep wasn't great. It wasn't like not a lot, but it was just not good sleep, and the food wasn't very good. But so it wasn't like an ideal train up. But then again, I think I did relatively as well as I was going to do based on what I normally train.
Cool. And so you got to the venue, I think, Friday night, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so was there an opportunity for, I guess, just non-competitive people to do all these things? I think there was for the Savage, maybe for the Savage
There-
obstacles.
The Savage course was open, I think the whole time the venue was open for the
That's
public to do. And so people were doing it the whole time. We were allowed to practice on it whenever we wanted. So I got to practice Anchors Away, which hadn't been at any of the courses I had done previously, even though they've had it around a while. And one other one, I can't remember what other one, but got to practice the ones I'd never done before. And the venue, like the GORUCK Games, the rest of the events, they didn't have the regular festival attendees do, but they had all sorts of other events going on. Like GORUCK had like 5 or 6 different ruck events go on throughout the whole thing, maybe more than that. I kept seeing different posts and lists and groups and everything for different lengths of rucks and weights of rucks and things like that. And there were tons of speakers, which I didn't go to any of those because it didn't match up with the scheduling. But tons of speakers giving talks on things in fitness and such related things.
it's pretty cool. So it was a big
It was
event.
the fitness festival where
Yeah,
the GORUCK Games happened. It wasn't the GORUCK Games with things on the side. It was the other way around. The GORUCK Games was more of a side thing to the whole fitness festival.
that makes sense. And I think it turned out pretty well. You said, I think that the Savage obstacles was supposed to be on the Saturday after the strength, and then they moved it to Sunday. But after watching everybody do the weighted pull-ups and the farmers carry for as long as possible, I think it would have been much, much more challenging to do the obstacles after that. So it probably worked in everybody's favor that they moved it to Sunday.
Yeah, probably. And I think, yeah, if there had just been 1 or 2 events between the ruck and the obstacle race, maybe they would have done everything in one day. But it seemed like someone else said it while we were there. It seemed like they wanted everyone to advance to day 2. Smart decision to draw more attention, and then like everyone's there, all of us were still there when the final thing was going down. I didn't watch it because honestly it didn't matter to me at that point, but the most people were still there, so they had more spectators and everything for it that way too. So it was a smart like event decision.
I found it very interesting that they decided, I guess, the absolute winner through wrestling.
Yeah,
Because they narrowed it down to, I guess, 4 with something else, and then they did the wrestling with the top 4, or did they have all 8 do the wrestling?
I think it was just yeah, I'm not sure. It was confusing with the photos. It looked like
Yeah,
the top 6 were there doing it, but I'm not sure because
I just,
third place was third and fourth place wrestled, so it had to have been. Yeah, I guess everyone did the wrestling. I think I'm not honestly sure,
I
but
don't,
one of the matchups, I feel a little bad. The one dude, what's his name? Roche.
yeah,
He's huge,
Mac, yeah.
big, strong dude, and whoever he was matched up against, I didn't watch it. All I saw was photos and videos, but he was kind of tossing the other guy around. And I was like, man, if I had made it to the end there, I was going to get buried by any of them because they were all much like 40 plus pounds bigger than me.
Yeah, that's,
It would have been fun though. It would have been, it would have been fun. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the top,
I think it
yeah,
was top 4, and it was whoever won out of those 4 won the podium, something like that. I think it was maybe Matt Kempson posted about that because he's the guy who you saw getting tossed around.
oh, okay.
Mac, yeah, and he
He's
was
not
saying,
weak either. That Matt Roche, or yeah, Roche is just huge,
yeah, he was
big
just on.
man.
He just did American Ninja Warrior. I don't know
Oh,
how he
really?
did. Yeah, they don't show that until a while after, but
Yeah.
so yeah,
I only saw like the beginning of his obstacle run, and being as big as he was super nimble.
yeah, he
He like
is.
floated over the first 2 obstacles. I was like, oh wow,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is not a weak spot for him.
Speaking of weak spots, so what would you say was your weakest event of the whole weekend?
The overhead 80-pound sandbag hold. It was going fine. Like it hurt, but it was going fine. And then for some reason, my left elbow just wouldn't lock anymore. And it's just started caving. And that's what did it.
When do they say you're out? When it touches your head?
Yeah, it was once it touched your head or your shoulder. Essentially, once it got supported by anything besides your arms.
That makes
It's
sense.
like this arm was locked and this one was coming down. So the sandbag was behind my head a lot, but it wasn't touching me yet. So they didn't call it until I actually dropped it because my body wasn't nothing but my arms was supporting it.
Okay, and it seemed like they had a decent amount of judges watching everybody.
Yeah, so for a lot of the events, several like that one and the farmer's carry, there was one judge assigned to like 4 people, so they would just stand behind those 4 or so, 4 or 5, and get the scoring. From what I could tell, they did all of their judging really well, and even though they might have ad-libbed a few things as they went along, I guess partly because they never hosted an event like this with like a variety of athletes like this. They changed things and like hadn't decided on all the rules. Like sometimes it was like, oh, are we allowed to wear gloves? And no. And then the next time it was like, hey, if you want to wear gloves for this, go for it. So
Yeah.
I can't remember which events that was for, but one time they allowed gloves. Oh, for the obstacle course they did, but for things prior to that they didn't. Tore that for the first time. Hopefully that heals for DECA this weekend. But yeah, they had a pretty good set idea of how like the events were going to go, and they ran it fairly well. And I didn't really hear much, if any, people complaining about like the judging or anything. There's a few things randomly like, oh, well, I wasn't doing that, and they said I was, but it was. I mean, that happens at every competition, so
Right.
it didn't seem like there was any big scandal. Not that I saw or heard or anything. The one thing I did like and didn't like at the same time about it was the scoring system. So it was like golf where the lowest score, the 8 people with the lowest score were the 8 that moved on to the final. So every event, like if you got first place in the event, you got 1 point. If you got second, you got 2 points, etc. So the goal was to have the cumulative least amount of points, which meant placing high throughout all the events. And I like that format a lot. There's no like scoring weird things where math can go wrong, really. At least not for the top people, and the ones below it doesn't really matter as much for because they're not going to make it to the top 8. But the only thing I didn't like about it was that all the events were scored exactly the same, and their weight towards your like whether you made it to the top 8 was the same. So like the ruck took, from what I saw looking over their shoulders at the scoreboard, it was like, I think I did it in just under 150 or an hour 50. So like an hour 47. I might be wrong. It was under 2 hours. I think it was 147 for what I saw on the sheet, but there were a few numbers on the sheet. So who knows? Somewhere around there though. So like you do an event that long, 12 miles with 45 pounds, takes an hour 50, hour 40. Who knows how fast the fastest guy did it, but that was weighted the same as holding a sandbag over your head for like 4 or 5 minutes, however the longest person held it. So like cumulative effort, obviously holding the sandbag up was still hard, but like the effort level was not the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The expenditure was not the same, even though it's still a super hard event. And then like weighted pull-ups was weighted the same as both of those 2 events. And then the sandbag or the kettlebell throw, which is normally a medicine ball throw in the military, it's called a standing power throw. It's part of the ACFT. I'm terrible at that. That was my second worst event. And that was weighted the same as all the others too. So you still got the same you just fell in a point system of all the people there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
even though that's like a 2-second effort with a 10-pound sandbag. And if you're a big guy, you just have an advantage because you're able to move more faster and further.
I see why they did that for simplicity's sake, but
Yeah. Oh, no, it was, that's why I said I like it and I don't like it. I don't like it because it didn't favor me. I like it as a scoring system.
so you say that the long ruck favored you.
Yeah. Because I could have sworn I had 8th. Not going to worry about it. They have me at 9th at the end officially, even though they told me 8th right after it was done. But yeah, 9th was perfect. 8th or 9th there was perfect. It's either right there in the top 8 or right outside of it, 1 point outside of it. And then the obstacle course, I got to look at the unofficial results for a second, and I got 7th on my time with the obstacle course. So those two averaged to 8, which is still puts me in a really good spot. I just didn't do nearly well enough on the other events.
Do you know what you got on the other events?
No, as far as placement, no. From the video with the 100-pound 1 mile run, I did it in, I believe, 9:06, but I don't know where that placed me because I haven't seen a full score sheet. It was all on the sheet that I looked at, but the DJ showed it to me for a second, and he's doing his job, so I wasn't about to hang around there a long time, like writing down my scores and trying to figure out where I placed and everything. So, yeah.
Okay, so 2 questions. Do you plan to do it next year?
If they have it.
Okay,
And
and
if
so
they invite me, yeah.
what would be 3 exercises that you think are the top 3 exercises you can do to better train for the weaknesses that you felt you had this year? If they were to have the exact same event, which they won't most likely, but
Right. No, I'm sure they wouldn't, but I wouldn't change anything. Okay, so I would train exactly the same for the ruck because I had a Lara bar with me, but I didn't have any water because I thought there'd be water on the course. So I did the whole thing without water.
there was an entire ocean there.
Yeah, I know. Not the same thing. But I tried eating some of the bar like a little less than halfway through, and I could just barely chew it because my mouth was so dry. And I was like, well, I'm not trying that again because that's just making the thirst issue worse. So I wouldn't change anything on that. If I had been able to eat some and stay hydrated the whole time, I think I could have been in the top 8. And even if I had gotten 9th again, that would have been a fine place for that. The obstacle course, the only thing I would have done is been faster on my transitions. I took the transitions a little slow because they were so like physically the distance between them was so short, and I wanted to make sure I completed the obstacles because there were a lot of people who got penalized on those, and it was a minute penalty if you failed it twice or chose to skip it after you failed it once. So I wouldn't really change much on those. I could have made up if I had made the ball on score and hole both times the first time because I shot above it trying so the advice I got on it from everyone who's done it before was throw it above the hole so that way even if like you miss going directly in the hole, it'll roll back down into the hole, but instead it just bounced off the board above the hole and came back down anyway. So on my second try, both tries, I just aimed for the hole and got it right in. So that's would have saved me 5 to 10 seconds between the 2 tries. So transition in that, I could have got it under 6 minutes for sure, just speeding up a little bit here and there. But the main things, I think the biggest events, like the biggest opportunity on events would have been the throw because the kettlebell throw, because they counted the distance it rolled as well. So it wasn't just where it hit the ground was the distance, it was hit the ground and go as far as it rolls. So had I done really well on that, that was easy points because it's such a low effort event. And then So I would practice that to get a really, really good throw. And yeah. And then weighted pull ups to get 5 to 10 more because the best were getting like 30 and I did 15.
A lot.
Yeah. And then the only other thing would have been farmers carries. So yeah, if I had improved those numbers on those 3 events, it would have been a huge difference. And then the heavy run wouldn't have mattered very much, and the overhead wouldn't have mattered nearly as much.
Do you know how you placed on the 1 mile?
I tried counting based off the video, but because it was laps,
Yeah.
there were guys who got lapped, and it was hard. It was very hard to tell who did get lapped and who didn't. And when I went through the finish line, it looked like there were 10 to 15 bags on the ground and people standing around. So I thought I placed there. But then when I watched the video, I thought I counted more like 20 to 23 potentially who were ahead of me. But I don't know if some of them were not on their last lap, that last bit coming through or not. So I don't know. It was roughly middle of the pack as far as I could tell. And I don't think I'd try. Yeah. I would have chosen those other 3 events to train harder for than that one.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely sounds like fun. And I mean, again, I've seen nothing but good feedback from it, online from all the athletes who I follow who were there. So I'm sure that they'll probably do it again, hopefully, or some rendition of it anyway. So
I think so, and it seems like they want to have this fitness festival every year now. And if they
yeah,
do, I don't know why they wouldn't have the GORUCK Games coincide. The only question I would have would be whether or not I guess, would be where the prize money came from. Like if it was GORUCK themselves staking the money, or if sponsors staked the money, or how that worked, because that would determine um, if the money sticks around in following years. I'm sure they'd still pay out pretty well. That was a really good payout, I think, for what it was,
yeah,
especially in these types of sports where there aren't very big payouts. I think first place was like 7,000, right?
I have no idea, but that's pretty good if that's what it
5 or
is.
7, something like that. It was this chunk. Yeah, and
Yeah,
second one 3,000.
I know there was 50,000 total and prize
Yeah,
money paid out.
yeah.
So
The
I
top
thought,
8 all got prize money, but the bottom 4 to 5 were in the hundreds, and the top
yeah,
3 were in like the thousand. Yeah,
yeah,
something. I don't remember. It's all online somewhere. They have the prize money listed.
still
But
a
if
cool.
the money sticks around, that'll keep the competition high. So as long as they didn't feel like they lost out on it as far as like advertising and money and all that stuff, I don't know why they wouldn't do it again.
Right.
The one thing that I think was really good about it that maybe other competitions don't have was the number of judges compared to the number of people and the types of events, because there were a lot of the GORUCK guys there and only a few events or a few people going at a time on an event normally. And the ones where there were, it was super easy for one guy to track 3 or 4 athletes accurately. So I think that helped to eliminate a lot of the question involved.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. All
Yeah.
right. One big takeaway from this is that anybody watching right now should go onto Facebook and tag Savage Race and tell them that they need to do urban obstacle. I think that's what they called it, an urban obstacle events at their next races next year. I'll give them the rest of the year to get their act together so that next year we can do 20 or whatever obstacles in a quarter mile. Think about that though. Somebody could sign
That
up.
was not even a quarter mile. My watch had 0.16.
Yeah, they could sell their tickets at like $50 a piece and have, each person gets 3 go throughs or whatever, and you could still have a competitive heat, So I think there's potential. And so everybody
Even
contact Savage and tell them what's up.
even if it was even if they just did it at like other fitness events,
That's true.
like fitness festivals like that, they could set that up at places like that and get a lot of people just to try it. I mean,
Yeah.
anyone everyone would pay $5 to run through that one time.
I mean, yeah.
They
And
might
that part's just-
need more than that, but you know what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
I would pay $5 to run through it every time I ran through it, and I'd run through it multiple times in a day for fun. Except I'd need gloves at that point because that almost everyone's hands got shredded on that thing.
I'm sure and it's different than Ninja Warrior too, because they have like the whatever it's called where you're kicking with your legs to roll the
Yeah.
power in. It's just different. It's obstacles, it's different.
Yeah.
So hey, hopefully they do that.
We'll see. It'd be cool to see it at some venues, have a speed course. Yeah.
Cool.
It was, I mean, it was a lot of their obstacles all mashed together though, so it might be hard to have at a regular venue too, but whatever.
Yes.
It'd still be really cool to see them make it work somehow.
I'm sure they will. Yeah. So we've got a couple events coming up. We're both doing the DECA Fit April 30th in
Like
Fayetteville. iFit Fayetteville, I believe, is the name of the gym. So yeah, DECA Strong, and then I'm doing the Spartan Beast in Fayetteville, and you're doing the Spartan Ultra, also in Fayetteville. Then the weekend after that, I'm doing the Hildervat in Jacksonville, Hildervat, whatever it is, which is it's the weekend right after the Beast.
Oh, I thought there was a gap week because I thought I was doing. Hold on, I'm looking at my schedule once it loads. If it loads. Because I'm doing that other race. Hildervat pays the winner, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the pay on that?
500, I think.
Whew, okay, that's better. Oh yeah, I'm doing the Myrtle Beast terrain race 5K at Myrtle Beach. That's South Carolina, isn't it? I don't know why I have North Carolina on here.
Yeah, Myrtle Beach is South Carolina.
I wrote North
Yeah,
Carolina.
so hey, if anybody else is going to
They have like $150 prize though. That's big money.
pays for gas, I guess, almost.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, for anybody else who's going to be at these events, hey, we look forward to seeing you there, and say hi to us if you see us, and keep putting in the work. It'll be fun. This year is off to a really awesome start, and it looks like it's going to continue that way. So keep on grinding.
Yep. TrioFitnessTraining.com. Oh, wait, one last thing. Cool thing from the event, they had patches for every day. I thought that we missed it because we didn't go and grab them each day, but they gave it in the like athlete bag they gave us, so I have all three. And then there's the GORUCK Games patch.
Nice. That's a very rough type thing to do. Have patches.
Yeah, I know.
But
Remember, Dad used to have all those patches, and I never knew what to do with any of them. We never did anything with any of them.
we can sell them to yourself.
Yep. And then this hat, and I don't wear hats, so if anyone wants to buy this hat for me for $15, there you go. And shoes, I haven't even decided if I'm gonna use these or not. The reviews online are super good, but I don't think I have a use for them.
Nice.
They're not what I would use for running, so I don't know. Anyway, cool stuff. Good stuff. Good job, GORUCK and Savage and Fitness Festival in Jacksonville. And who else was there? Well, there were a bunch of other companies there. But...
Nice. Oh,
all right. This video's done.
boom.